burn it. The order echoed through the ancient monastery, but the monks of Ethiopia refused. They knew what Europe didn't: scripture existed far before their translations. The Ethiopian Bible, the Guizi scriptures, written centuries earlier. Some scholars say as much as 800 years. A spiritual and financial treasure, fiercely protected, in a land that dared to be different. For centuries, the world has looked west for its spiritual origins. To dusty libraries in Europe, to the hallowed halls of Rome, for the definitive word on matters of faith. But what if the source wasn't where we expected it to be? What if the origin point, the true first edition, was hidden in plain sight, thriving in the heart of Africa? We've been taught a version of history, a narrative shaped by colonial powers and Western scholars. A narrative that often, conveniently, overlooks the richness and complexity of African history. A narrative that needs correction. Deep in the highlands of Ethiopia, guarded by generations of devoted monks and priests, lies a treasure. A book older than the printing press, older than the King James Bible, older than almost anything you can imagine. This isn't a myth or a legend. This is documented fact, supported by carbon dating and scholarly consensus. These aren't fragments or copies. This is the complete, illuminated Ethiopian Bible, the Guizi Bible. Its pages crackle with the weight of history, bound in leather tan using techniques lost to time. Its ink, painstakingly applied by hand, still vibrant after all these centuries. It contains not just the familiar texts found in other Bibles, but also unique books and perspectives that offer a radically different understanding of faith. The book includes Enoch, Jubilees, Esdras, the Shepherd of Hermas and the 3 books of Maccabean. European scholars were translating fragments of the Bible from Hebrew and Greek sources in the 15th century. But here, in Ethiopia, a complete and far older version had existed since at least the 4th century AD. Wait, what? The 4th century. That means the Ethiopian Bible predates the oldest surviving complete Latin Vulgate Bible, a cornerstone of Western Christianity, by over 800 years. Why it matters now? The past doesn't just inform the present, it echoes within it. Consider this: when Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali, made his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, his wealth was so immense, so staggering, that it destabilized the economies of entire regions. Cairo, Medina, Mecca, they all felt the weight of his gold, the sheer volume of his generosity, or, depending on your perspective, the disruptive power of his opulence. Arab historians described it as a treasure beyond measure, a bounty divinely blessed. But here's the thing. The language they used, the very descriptions of Mansa Musa's wealth, are strikingly similar to the language used in the Ethiopian Bible to describe the treasures of King Solomon. The Queen of Sheba herself, according to our texts, was drawn to Solomon's wisdom and immense riches. These weren't just rulers holding court, they were custodians of resources, conduits of divine prosperity, stewards of kingdoms built on faith and, yes, on strategic management of wealth. These weren't just dusty stories in ancient texts. They are blueprints. The Ethiopian Bible, filled with tales of prosperity and divine provision, offers a unique lens through which to understand African concepts of finance. It frames wealth not just as an accumulation of material possessions, but as a responsibility, a tool for building communities, and a reflection of spiritual alignment. Fast forward to today. Africa is a continent brimming with potential, rich in resources, and increasingly assertive on the global stage. But too often, conversations about African finance are dominated by external narratives: aid dependency, debt crisis, and the extraction of resources by others. What if we turned inward? What if we started to examine the financial wisdom embedded within our own spiritual and cultural heritage? What if, instead of relying on Western models, we look to the rich tapestry of African thought for guidance? Because, wait, what? The earliest accounts of double-entry bookkeeping, the very foundation of modern accounting, trace back not to 15th century Europe, but to records found within ancient Ethiopian monasteries. So, what does a 1,600-year-old Bible, predating European versions by centuries, mean for Africans today? It's about reclaiming our narrative. It's about understanding that our spiritual heritage isn't simply a product of colonization, but a powerful, vibrant force that flourished here, on this continent, long before. Recognizing this truth allows us to build a more authentic and empowered identity, influencing how we approach everything, even finance. Imagine building your financial future rooted in this deep sense of self-worth and historical understanding. That's the power of knowing your story. And if you're ready to dive deeper into African history and culture, check out our creator kit at pornoafric.com/shop.html. With this kit, you will gain access to relevant resources to document your personal ancestral journey. But ultimately, it begs the question. Considering the age and richness of the Ethiopian Bible, and other untold African narratives, what do you think? Did they hide the truth? Thinking face.